Welcome to Turtle Talk. This is Morgan's story and the family's journey. I'm Craig, and
I'm Michelle. Welcome.
so welcome back to Turtle Talk. Uh, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
You know,
Summer gets crazy.
Summer gets chaotic. Summer gets crazy.
Lots of activities.
Yep.
But we're still here.
Yep.
We haven't gone anywhere.
Nope.
We're going to keep trucking on this
Yeah,
train.
right.
So,
And I know we started down the path of the legal aspect, and that's what we're going to dive into for at least the next few episodes. So bear with us, and it's quite entertaining. So
yeah, we'll kind of bounce back and forth on legal throughout time as we're telling the story and stuff. But, you know, the whole legal process is so painfully slow. You hear that saying, innocent until proven guilty and the right to a fair and speedy trial. But let's just admit it. That doesn't really happen.
speedy is subjective.
Speedy subjective, yeah. So, we filed our suit against like this whole group because you have to kind of peel back the onion layers. But if you don't hit them all in the beginning, you can't add them in after the suit's filed, if that makes sense.
Right.
So you include every agency, every officer, everyone who is involved in this. You include in this, and then you just start doing depositions, and then you can figure out, okay, where did we land, right? So we filed in 2017, and we included everybody. And then we started on depositions. And, of course, scheduling, people scheduled stuff. I mean, these things, it wasn't months. It wasn't a month or 2 months. It was multiple months or even a year to get these things done, to gather paperwork, to get police reports. It's request after request. Nobody wants to give them up. So then you have to get the judge to get them to give the information. So it was really, I'm not going to give you anything unless I'm told I have to give you something.
Right. Covering their butts.
Right. So it was kind of, it was just disheartening to us because we're like, this will go quick. In our mind, we were thinking, this won't be so horrible. And I remember in the beginning, someone said, this is going to take almost 10 years. And I remember thinking, there is no way this is going to take 10 years. Well, guess what? We're pretty close.
Yeah. If you filed in 2017,
We're 8 years in already.
9.
So, yeah, we're entering our 9th year. Crazy, isn't it?
Wow.
I would have never believed that. So they started on depositions. I have notes. Sorry, I love notes. So as we're going through the depositions, each officer was getting deposed. And so there was the one officer that was with Neufeld, the one that ultimately ended up being responsible, right?
Right.
But everybody has accountability in this. So that's what's very disheartening is, yes, there was the main aggressor, but there was accountability across the board. And so, the one officer, he had only been on the job for like 7 days. He had been sworn in by a judge, on the job for 7 days, had not been to the academy, had not done anything, yet he's out there acting as a cop. Like, how can this be legal in South Dakota? Like, nobody should be given a gun, a badge, a car, any of that until you've gone through the academy. And let me tell you, the academy needs to be way longer than it is. You need to go to school for over a year to be a hairdresser.
Yeah.
And it's what, 13, 16, 18 weeks for a police academy? It's pretty sad. It's very sad because these are the people and that are here to serve and protect. And my thing has been this whole time that nobody in this process was there to serve and protect. The only thing they did was maim and harm these kids. And where was the adult in the situation? Right?
Yep.
So the first officer, that one of the depositions that we did, he was the one that had been on on the job for 7 days. 7, right? I'm still, they had been called out to this farm place for this party multiple times. They're already aggravated, these cops are, about this situation. Had nothing to do with Taylor and Morgan and Micah. Nothing. They weren't even involved in the previous calls.
Right.
Right? But of course, they're guilty by association when they do a drive-by. Oh, like we all haven't done a drive-by by an accident, by parties. When the cops are busting something, everybody's driving doing this number, to see what's going on. They have the crooked neck syndrome,
Rubberneckers.
Rubberneckers, yeah. And so as we're deposing this officer, he had worked as a dispatcher, and there was an order put down by the sheriff that if Neufeld showed up on the scene, he was to be turned away. That was an agency order. But the dispatcher, this officer who at the time or prior to this was a dispatcher, had no recollection of that order. Right?
Okay.
So you see where the misinformation is coming from now, right? Let's start this rodeo off right.
Yeah.
We're going to say, oh, I didn't know that was an order throughout the sheriff's office. Really? Okay. So, they asked him a lot of questions, were they, why'd they get pulled over? And he's like, for exhibition driving. However, other officers testified that they were doing an investigatory stop, and even in court, that's what was said. Because the kids were doing 35 miles an hour down a gravel road. Use their blinker to turn on the road to go by the party, right? See who's getting arrested. So nowhere in there was exhibition driving. Mm-hmm. But let's back up. Remember, there was that big secret meeting with everyone involved a couple days after the accident so everyone could get their story straight.
Sure.
They'll all say, oh, that never happened. But there's people who will say that did happen. But it's a big CYA, right? So, then he was with Neufeld when the crash happened. And immediately, one of the deposition questions was, did either one of you call for the helicopter? And he said, no. Like, this was a serious, serious accident. Anybody walking on scene of that would have said, we need the helicopter en route immediately.
Right.
So then he, I remember in the deposition, they asked him, what he thought about a particular situation within this. And I don't remember the situation specifically, but he says, do you want to know what I know about it now or after only being on the job 7 days? Right? 2 different answers. Because in 7 days of, hey, welcome, you're a cop now.
Yeah.
You're going to have no idea what the heck the law is or what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And then you get thrown in with the crazy cop, whose aggression was unheard of. I mean, it came out in the trial that he had drew his gun. And for what? Why would he draw a gun? These kids had done nothing wrong.
Right.
There was no exhibition driving. There was no drinking, no drugs, no reckless driving. They stopped when they were ordered to. Why the gun? Why the gun? That tells me that someone might have a little bit of issue. If you think the only way you can do this is pull a gun.
Right.
On kids. That was really disheartening. Well, then we go on to the next officer who had been on scene.
Okay.
And his deposition comes around. The first officer, oh yeah, Neufield's great, blah, blah, blah. I was learning from him, stupid stuff like that. But the next officer who comes on says, I didn't trust him. He was dangerous. He was dangerous to people. He was dangerous to the department. That's why he got fired from the sheriff's office. So how do you get fired from the sheriff's office only to have the tribal police department hire him? Right? So he's a tribal cop during this time. But of course, nobody follows any laws, it seems like, in this officer world. Tribes seem to think that they're exempt from doing what they need to do. You have to go to a tribal police academy. You have to do these specific things to be a tribal police officer. You can go ask any cop on any reservation and they say yes. Not only do you have to have the state stuff, but you have to go to the federal training to be a tribal police officer. The tribe was told Neufeld needed to go to this. He needed to do this stuff. Did it ever happen? No.
Really?
And we're a sovereign nation. We can do what we want. Okay, fine. Do what you want on your sovereign nation. But when that sovereign nation bleeds out into the general community, it's unacceptable. Yeah. It's very unacceptable.
I hope that they find that in the proceedings.
Oh, yeah. So, that was... So now we're into cop officer number 2 who's saying, I don't trust him. He's dangerous, right? Why is he on scene, first off, as a tribal officer, 15 miles off the reservation? Then there was this big argument in depositions about, well, he came, they called for help, so he came. Even though there was an order by the sheriff saying he shouldn't be on scene of anything. So everybody is spewing one version of these stories in all the depositions. Like, how do you even know what the heck is true? What the people who are supposed to be there to serve and protect are all telling different stories.
Right.
And so then, of course, before depositions, we requested all the dispatch logs. And it's kind of convenient that certain things were missing off dispatch logs. So then we request, one of the systems failed. So then we request the state logs. And conveniently, there was a failure there too.
Sounds like a movie.
It does sound like a movie, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like you're sitting here going, wait a second. Boy, both systems? Who's hiding what?
Yeah.
Right? There's the state radio backup system that's supposed to be pretty dang secure and safe and fail-proof, right? I'm not saying things don't happen, but isn't it kind of ironic that they're claiming that there was something wrong with both systems?
Right.
So now we're supposed to sit here and say, okay, all cops are good. I think majority of the police officers are very good. And we have dear friends who are police officers, but there are some bad apples that sure give the good ones bad names, right? And these guys are doing no help for anybody because your stories are all different. Even though you had a secret meeting to come up with the same story, right? I mean, this is like spy novel stuff, I feel like. I feel like I'm living in the Twilight Zone, going through all this legal stuff. Mm-hmm. It was insane listening to these depositions, and I'm reading the depositions, and I'm hollering. I'm hollering at my computer saying, this is BS. You're lying. We all know you're lying.
Yeah.
And you're lying in a deposition, and you're an officer of the law. I just made my toenails curl. It just, I tell you,
I mean, will there be repercussions if it's found out? Like, is there another side of that, or is it?
no, it's pretty much dead in the water at this point, because you fast forward and we've won our lawsuit.
Yeah.
In March of last year. We've already won it. However, the government decided to appeal it. And, the government can do whatever the hell it wants, and citizens be damned. I don't care what side of the fence you're on. It's all a whole bunch of BS. And I get very angry about that. Yes, Morgan won a significant amount of money. We haven't seen a penny of it, for all of you who think we're uber rich. you know, But I sit here and I think even a portion of that money, we could buy the robotic walking machine that would help her to walk and help her reconnect those neurons for walking. Like, there is a roadmap for Morgan to walk again someday, but it requires specialized equipment that insurance doesn't cover,
Of course not.
equipment that is very expensive that we can buy, but I don't know about you, but I don't have $650,000 laying around to buy one piece of equipment.
No. That's a good house.
Yeah, it is a good house, but it's something that could tremendously help her. And these clinics, it's the robotic walking trainers, and the clinics and the therapy places, it's not covered by insurance. So it's not high on their priority list to use.
Right.
They mainly use it for inpatient rehab. So on the outpatient side, it's really hard to get. So my frustration is, to the government, I think they're all a bunch of assholes for not resolving this lawsuit. Why appeal? You lost. What's the point of the appeal?
To prolong it, or
to prolong it so they don't have to pay it out, whatever. The only people all of these people are hurting is Morgan. There are so many things that Tom and I need for her. We've refinanced her house, I don't know, 4 times now? Pulled out all the equity we could to cover stuff for her. People are like, how do you do it? Well, we're financed to the hilt. What do you do when this could all be resolved? It could be done, but there was no the trial was very fair. The judge we had was amazing. He really was amazing. Kudos to him. He was very thorough. He was very articulate. He was very fair. His ruling was so thorough that I can't even figure out where an appeal could come from, because it was so thorough.
Yeah.
Right? But the rest of the process is time limits need to be put on more of this stuff. You have 2 weeks, not indefinite periods of time. Do you know what I mean? There were time frames on some things issued by the court, but some of this stuff just, these things need to speed up, because 8 years of this, there's some things in Morgan's recovery that could have changed drastically had we had the ability early on.
Yeah, because the more time goes, the therapy changes.
It does. And so that's what's frustrating is, we're spending a year or whatever in depositions trying to do this. And so after the ruling, your question was, I'm sorry, I kind of veered right there, but your question was, has anything come of this besides the ruling? Well, after the ruling, Neufeld, the officer that did this, right after the accident, he knew he was in trouble. He called another officer and said, I think I'm in a lot of trouble, right? Well, then all these investigators come, because this is now federal, right? Because it involved a tribal cop. So he quit. He quit the tribe. Then the city hired him. Like, what the hell? So the city hires him, and he's been working for them ever since. Right? They knew he was fired from the county. They knew he caused this accident in the tribal world. They knew what kind of crap wad they were getting, but they hired him anyhow. So when the ruling came down, our lawyers immediately sent an intent to sue for negligent hiring the minute the ruling came down. And we attached the ruling, and it was within a day or so that he was relieved of duty. There were letters out to the state, to the licensing people and stuff. So I think we finally got some justice there, but when you back up a little bit on that, even early on, our state's attorney charged no one. There were no charges against any of the cops. There were no charges against the driver. There were no charges against anybody. Nobody. Well, he's not the brightest light bulb in the shed either, because he doesn't charge out things unless he guaranteed a win. If it's tough, forget it. He won't even touch it.
Yeah.
I've been going through some other stuff with our state's attorney, and he just, it's just beyond him, I think, to do anything that's not laid out in a silver platter. However, New York, just the other day, there was a cop who pulled a guy over. The guy refused to give his license for whatever reason. I don't know the whole reason. I don't care to know. Situation is the guy refused. The guy took off. The cop high-speed chased him. There was a kid in the car. The cop rammed the vehicle. I don't know if the vehicle rolled or if they just crashed or whatever, but the kid was killed. That officer was charged. He is now going to prison for vehicular manslaughter or whatever. Yeah. So I want to know, and this has always been a burr up my butt, is what this officer did to these 3 kids after the chase was terminated. Because during depositions, the highway patrol terminated the chase after like 3 minutes. 3.
But it went on for...
But because the kids had dipped into a cornfield or something and shut off their lights. They got far enough away from the cops that they tried hiding. Now, was that the right thing to do? No. But after a cop has, for no reason, pulled a gun on them and a chase has started, I'd be fearful for my life too, right? So they lose sight of the kids. The highway patrol terminated the chase. And then this dipshit cop says, oh, they ran me over. That's assault on an officer. And he went out hunting for them. And when he found them, he started a whole second chase. The chase was done. And he started the second chase. And this went on, I bet, 20 minutes. Most of the chase was over 100 miles an hour.
For no reason.
For no reason. Ran them kids down a dead-end road at high speed, lost control of his car, crashed his cruiser, right? And our kids are laying in the middle of a pasture in cow shit. And he didn't get charged. He should have been charged. He should be sitting in jail for what he did to these 3 kids, because these 3 kids, their life will never be the same again. There was no drinking. There was no drugs. There was no traffic law violations. There was nothing but an aggressive cop with a gun and a bad attitude.
Yeah.
And the state's attorney should have charged him. I don't even care. He could have charged the driver too. But there were 2 innocent victims in that vehicle. And during depositions, I was so irate because they said, well, the kids could have got out at any time. Oh, at 100 miles an hour, they're supposed to what? Jump out of the damn car?
The police officer said that in
A
depositions?
couple of them said that, well, they could have got out. They could have stopped him. They could have. Can you imagine?
Who's the adult?
Who's the adult in the situation? Who should have said, wait a minute, there's 3 kids here, and I'm the adult. I'm also the officer. Maybe since we already know who the driver is, we have the plate number of the truck, let's just go get him at a safer period. Right?
It's
Makes sense
logical.
to me?
Yeah.
Logical? So there were so many things here that I can't believe he never got charged. So that falls on the state's attorney. And that state's attorney,
Yep.
so yeah, it gets my blood pressure boiling. Still, 8 years later, I am still very, very angry over what happened to these kids. I just can't. It should have never happened. And then you have officers saying, oh, this guy was out of line. I don't trust him. He's done some horrible things as an officer to citizens.
This was another officer saying this
Yes.
in deposition?
And yet this guy was still a cop
Up until the decision was made.
up until the decision was made. You know, it just I don't know. He had gotten in trouble for call jumping, this tribal cop, Neufeld.
Call jumping.
Yeah, there would be a call for the county or the call for the city cops, and he'd be out doing whatever he did or didn't do, and he'd just show up on a scene. Wasn't called, wasn't asked for, he'd just be there. Yeah. Yeah. I tell you, the night we were notified by the officers, that was unforgivable to me. We're talking about the adult in the room here. And we have 2 officers show up, and one of them, he's sitting there. They knock on this door, they knock on that door. It's middle of the night. We're trying to what the heck's going on? And he asked if we have a daughter, and I think I've told this before, but then he's like, well, does she have any identifying markings on her body? Who the hell says that? There was a much gentler way to approach that than coming from the, well, she's dead point. Could have been, hey, there's been an accident. Everybody is in critical condition. Nobody has, you could have come from that angle, not that, hey, shocker.
Yeah.
Once again, the adult in the room, the lack of police training. I'm sorry, these small towns, small communities, they go to the academy, their continuing ed is, minimal at best. There should be statewide requirements that you have to attend back out to the state academy or refresher course every 3 years and teach them new skills, teach them, trainings. I am 100% against high-speed chases unless it's like life or limb. But even that I'm very leery of. If they've kidnapped a child, but is a high-speed chase necessarily the right thing when there's another innocent victim in the car? Oh, somebody refused to stop. We have the plate number and stuff, but let's go high-speed chase them.
Right.
Because this is what pisses me off about all these high-speed chases. You're so gung-ho on getting this guy who probably had a misdemeanor up until this high-speed chase. Probably had a misdemeanor. and now it's a high-speed felony chase, and you put everyone on the road at risk of every road you're high-speed chasing them down. Just in South Dakota alone, look at the number of high-speed chases where innocent bystanders have been hurt. And for what? For what? Because it started as a misdemeanor, a speeding ticket, a failure to stop at a stop sign. And now we're into felony level. Who is the adult in the room? And I know lots of officers who are against high-speed chases. There are very, 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 very few circumstances where that's even warranted.
Right.
Once you have their plate number, you have a description, go get them later. But this is ridiculous. They are there to serve and protect. And 90% of the time they do a great job, but these high-speed chases, especially in Sioux Falls, make my toenails curl.
Yeah.
That traffic in Sioux Falls is so crazy to begin with.
So stupid.
It's unnecessary. It is unnecessary. If they're a drunk driver and they're doing crazy stuff, you know what? Put a bubble around them with your cop car. Do whatever you got to do to protect the innocent civilians. But a high-speed chase with someone who's drunk or high on drugs, what the hell are you thinking?
Yeah.
It just is too much. It's too much for me. I get so angry when all these innocent people are dying because some cop may have an aggression factor that they have to chase them.
Right. And with technology, I'm hopeful that they just stop the high-speed chasing.
It needs to stop. Like I said, there's very, very, very few situations
Right.
where it would even be acceptable, but there needs to be safeguards in place. And there's some places that have completely banned high-speed chases. You can get them. You may not get them in that moment, but you will get them.
Right.
That's why there's dash cams on every cruiser. Oh, wait.
Yeah. Wait a second.
Oh, wait a second. That brings up another subject.
Yeah.
I don't want to get in trouble for the bullshit I just pulled, so I'm going to delete the dash cam video.
Shouldn't be allowed.
Or I'm going to shut off my vest stuff.
Shouldn't be allowed.
Or I'm going to say, it was malfunctioning. Or wait a minute, let's just destroy the whole car and make it disappear.
Because that's what happened.
That's what happened.
So you'll never get the footage from
We got
his
some,
cruiser.
not from his, no. And we have no way to prove or disprove because the car went missing immediately.
I suppose it was a tribal car. So
Does it sound like a cover-up to you?
like I said, it sounds like a bad movie.
Like a bad movie. It's a train wreck that you can watch and you know what's coming and you can't take your eyes off it. Thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate it. We love hearing from you guys, so keep the comments and the questions coming for us.
Yes. Love the questions. Please subscribe. Go to www.givemorgan.org or visit me at my real estate website, realtorcraigbertrand.com. And we always want your questions, comments, like, and share wherever you listen or watch.
Thank you.
Thank you.